Hello again, everybody. I hope you are all back and comfortable again. And I hope that you enjoyed your little break there. Okay, so, right. Welcome back. We are moving on now to the practical side of this. And in the next 45-minute session, we're going to be looking at a number of different techniques and activities that you as teachers can use in the classroom, regardless of what phonics program you are using. I will be using examples from Snappy Sounds, but all of these activities require very little preparation and very few physical materials to actually play them. So I hope that you enjoy all of these little activities. We're going to be starting by looking at learning individual sounds and letters, different techniques and activities we can use for that. Moving on to activities for mastering reading and writing, and finally activities for getting the most from those decodable readers we were talking about. If you are ready to go, stick a yes in the chat box and I will check you can all still hear me. Okay, good. Lovely. Everybody is still there. Hello. It's always weird when I can't see you. I have to presume you have stayed to listen to me, but you are there. I have got confirmation there. Brilliant. All right, so let's get going. Now, I love this quote. Stephanie Evans and Melanie Porter are both experts in phonics instruction, and MacMillan are a very lucky company to have them as series advisors for the Snappy Sounds series. And in their research, what they've come to the conclusion is that it is not possible for learners of reading and writing, for literacy students, to rote learn, to learn by heart all of the words of English. There are far too many of them, and there are too many differences in the way that we write words down for us to be able to learn them automatically. And we need a strategy. This is what they've come to the conclusion. We need a strategy, a word attack strategy. And that word attack strategy is, of course, phonics and mastery of phonics and the mastery of the ability to blend letter sounds together. So, to enable that to happen, as we already said in the previous session, there are certain things that we need to do, and we need to begin at the beginning. We need to start by noticing activities, noticing those individual sounds in words, and noticing those repeated patterns that we see as well. And some of the best noticing activities involve having fun and looking at things in different ways. So, for example, we might have show and tell sections in our lessons if we are teaching the S sound. And if you're teaching online or face-to-face, it will work equally well. We can say to our children, we're going to do a show and tell. I want you to find me something that begins with a S sound and tell me what it is. So they might come, they might bring to class, or they might bring up on their camera. You can even send them in their bedrooms to run around and find things. It's like, this is a stone. It begins with a S sound. Yeah. Excellent. They can bring lots of different items in to talk about them. Another key noticing technique is exaggeration, or as it's written here, stuttering, repeating those sounds. Can anyone open the window? Window. Where is the window, really exaggerating those individual sounds within words to encourage the children to notice them. Another technique that you might want to try out is giving certain students ownership of certain sounds. So again, if we are working in a physical classroom, you might want to hand out different grapheme cards. So one student might have the S card, one student might have the card, for example. And whenever they hear their sound appearing in a word, they can show their card, taking ownership. Alternatively, you can attach different sounds to different students via different means. So I am Charlotte. Maybe my sound is sh. And when I hear the sh sound, I can talk about the two different graphemes that represent it, an SH like ship or sheep, and a sh with a CH like Charlotte. Giving ownership of specific sounds. Of course, there are 1,001 different games that we can play in the classroom, and we're going to be looking at quite a few of these over the next few minutes. But little things like sound hunts, like I Spy games that can help the children to identify those specific sounds. Alliteration, whenever possible. It can be a lot of fun. So you can ask students to make up sentences with as many words as they can with the S sound. So, silly Sally sometimes sits in the sun. Making up our own alliterative sentences. How many times can we use the same starting sound in the words as we go along? And of course, chants. And everybody loves a bit of a chant. So basic rhythms, which we can start. We can have clapping and patting, anything to bring that rhythm in, to bring the music into the education, the music of the language into the education. You can find 1,001 different chants around online. Always great fun to make up your own, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a little while. And whenever possible, if you're bringing in chants, add in some actions, add in some flashcards, get that into a fully physical experience as well. Make that learning as active as you possibly can. A multi-sensory experience of learning within the young learner's classroom is always the best way to make sure things are sticking and memorable. Okay, so we're going to start with a little game that's great for practicing segmenting. So as we said earlier, segmenting is identifying those individual sounds. And this can be played either face-to-face or in an online context as well. If you've got the students on webcams, it will work equally well both way. And this game is the sound hunt. So the way I play sound hunt will work with any sound, any individual sound that we are specifically practicing. I also use it as a revision activity as well. And if you notice at the bottom of the teacher cards here, it tells you the order of the graphemes that we're encountering and those sounds that we're encountering. So as a teacher, we can always see what's come before, and it's a great quick reference guide in the classroom for knowing what sounds we can use and what sounds we need to revise as we're going along. Sound hunt, nice and easy. It's a great way for students to connect those sounds that they're hearing and the graphemes to real objects around them in the classroom. So you can do it in a couple of ways. If you're doing it online, you can either use an image like we're going to do now, or you can ask the children to use the physical realia, the physical objects around them. So anything that they have in their, wherever they are studying at home, if they're using one of their parents' offices or using their bedroom, what can I find around me? And the idea is to start by holding up a grapheme such as this one and getting the participants to tell us, getting the young learners to tell us what sound this represents. What is the phoneme here? So we show the card and they tell us S. We're like, brilliant, great. Okay, I want you to find something in the picture that begins with the sound S. Okay, so I am going to ask you to have a look at the picture on the screen, and can you find any word in the picture that begins with a B sound? B, 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 B. What can you see that begins with a B? B. What have we got? Let's write our answers in the box. What do we find? Board. Oh, teacher's always spotting the board first. We've got bench. We've got boy. Brilliant. Excellent. Now, what we can do, obviously, if we use a picture, we have got a nice way of controlling it. If we are using physical objects and you're asking children to run off and find things in the classroom or in the space around them, we might get a few unpredictable answers, which could always be a challenge. But of course, it's important to think about how we can level this up. Now, segmenting, as we said earlier, is not just about identifying those first sounds. It's not just about identifying those initial sounds. And, oh, Tamisha is having a problem, can't see the slide. Can everyone else see the slide? Can you just put yes in the chat box if you can still see the slides? Yes, okay. Tamisha, I'm not sure what's happened. But it seems, oh, there's a few people that can't see it. Okay. It does seem like the most of you can see the slide, so I will continue, but maybe my wonderful assistant, Rainer, if there is anything that you can do, anything you can suggest, please can you support on that one? What was I saying? Yes, it's not just about the initial sounds within segmenting. It's breaking down words into their individual sounds, wherever that sound might fall in the word. So remember, when you're doing activities like sound hunt, start with the beginning, fine, but don't forget to go back, identify things that involve the ending words, the sounds in the middle. So can anybody have a look at the picture and find anything that ends with a G sound? Anything that ends with a G sound. What can we see? That's G, 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 G. Like the word, like the sound at the beginning of the word goat. Hey, all right, Esther's got ground. There's a good one. But I want something that ends with a G sound. Okay. Yes. Donna had a blackboard for the B sound. Brilliant. Anything that ends with a G. That's harder, isn't it? It's harder to go and find them. And of course, we can add in this extra level of challenge. So the students might have a look and they might find the leg of the boy or the leg of the table, for example. And we can put those different levels of challenges in. So working with commonly confused sounds. So working with s and sh, for example, or identifying vowel sounds in the middle of words. And we can use this game in a lot of different ways to add in those challenges. Another game that is great for noticing, and this one is brilliant for revising specific sounds, is bingo, of course. So here I've got some of the more common blends in English, S blends. So sm, st, sp, sl, most common word beginners there. We've also got those individual sounds as well, so p, t, z, tr. And as a teacher, just like any game of bingo, we read out our list of words, and if they find the sound, then they cross that off. Again, work with the beginnings of words, work with the middles of words, work with the ends of words. And don't be afraid to encourage the learners to create their own bingo boards, which can work really, really well in an online environment. So you can just give them 5 minutes to draw out a simple grid and choose any of the sounds that we have studied this week or this month to fill in their own board, and then we can play the game there. I'm going to presume that you all know the rules of bingo, but if you don't, feel free to put a question in the box and I promise to explain it later. But I think most of us know how to play bingo, so I'm going to leave that one nice and peace and quiet there. Okay, now, as we mentioned at the beginning of a snappy sounds lesson, the process begins with saying, seeing, and hearing those new words. And there are some great ideas for extra games and extra activities in the resource books that come along with that. So one of those that I particularly enjoying under lockdown has been the thumbs up, thumbs down activity. Very, very simple. Great for doing on camera because obviously with all of the learners on mute, we can just simply use the thumbs up, thumbs down to show whether we agree or disagree. And with the thumbs up, thumbs down activities, all we're doing is trying to decide whether the word contains a specific sound or not. And you can do this visually if you want to practice their ability, or we can use it just with the cards. So you might want to say it as an easy level. So can you hear the sound in these words? Or you can just show pictures of images of words and they can remember what the word is and decide thumbs up or thumbs down. So it works really, really well with a slideshow as well. Okay, now, once we have done our noticing activities, we also need to make sure that we are modeling as much as we can. And one of the ways that we model sounds is by showing the way that our mouths move. Because obviously, a change in the position of our tongue or our teeth or our lips will change the sound that we make. The way that air moves from our mouths will change the sound that we are making. So one thing that is really quite nice in Snappy Sounds is that they make these visual cards and videos of people modeling the sound. So as we can see here, this teacher is saying the f sound as in fan or cuff. And there's a description of how that sound is made. Now, the descriptions for Snappy Sounds are very age appropriate. We're not talking about, the medical terminology that you see in so much of the teachers' reading materials. We're not talking about making fricatives or plosives. We're describing it in childlike language. So we're saying the f sound is a consonant sound. It is a long sound. It is quiet sound. So, and one thing I always do with my students when we're learning new sounds and we're deciding if they're voiced or they're unvoiced, we do the throat check. So I ask my students to put their hand on their throat and make the f sound. Can you feel your voice box vibrating? No. So the terminology that gets used in Snappy Sounds, quiet sounds and loud sounds. As teachers, we'll probably refer to them as voiced or unvoiced sounds. But yes, good demonstrations. And as I've mentioned, within the online support materials for Snappy Sounds, we've also got videos of how these sounds are made. And if we have time, I'll try and show you one of those as well. So yes, when it comes to modeling, when we're talking about how sounds and letters are made, it's always useful to actually talk children through it. So what shape are your lips making? Are they close together? Are they sticking out? Are they wide? Where is your tongue? Is it at the front of your mouth? Is it at the back of your mouth? Is it on the roof of your mouth? Is it down? Is it a loud or a quiet sound? Is it a long or a short sound? And we can practice identifying the differences between words. So you can use little games like even simple flashcard games where you just have all of the words or all of the graphemes, and we decide, is that sound loud or quiet? Is it long or short? And they can match them to different definitions there as well. Okay. Ooh, where's my slide being responsive? Now, of course, we are learning phonics because we want to master reading and writing. We want to master our literacy. And the first step to mastering reading and writing is mastering blending. And blending, as we said, is bringing those individual sounds together to make a fluid, fluent pronunciation of specific words. And one technique that's really nice for blending is to show those visual differences between the sounds when they are individual and when they are spaced out to when they are all together. So one thing that you can do, you can even do this if you're in a classroom situation with physical children in front of you. You can give, let's say, 3 children. We're teaching the word pin. We're teaching how to say pin as a blended word. So you might choose 3 volunteers. One child has the p sound, one child has the I sound, and one child has the n sound. And they are each responsible. So you can stand them up and space them out. So the p on the left side of the classroom, I in the middle, and the n sound, the n child at the end, on the right side of the classroom. And each time we ask them to say their sound as you pass by. So you'd start standing next to p. You move to the middle, they say I. You move to the right side, the child says n. And then we move the children physically closer together. So the time between those sounds is slightly less. P, I, n. And we keep moving those children together until they are standing, socially distanced, but pretty next to each other to make p, in, p, in, p, in, pin, pin, and blending that word together. So good visual representation of that. Now, when it comes to practicing our encoding and decoding, there are lots of different things that we can attempt to do in the classroom. So we might start with very clear visual representations, spotting the differences and the similarities. What happens if I add an E to the end of pin? Well, the I and the E work together to elongate the sound. So we've got pin, we've got pine. And we can show these things visually in the classroom. We can also do activities such as this one. So in the boxes, we can see that we have got a nice little image of a sheep there. How many letters in the word sheep? S-H-E-E-P. 5 letters. How many boxes have we got on the screen? We've got 3. So we're trying to write the word according to its graphemes. So in the first box, the child is putting SH to make the sh sound. In the middle box, we're putting double E because it's an E sound. And in the final box, the smaller box, and notice how the boxes are different sizes according to the number of letters. That's the single grapheme of P. So sh, E, P, sh, E, P. Gives the children an opportunity to write those words, but also to be sounding them out, to be encoding as they write. When it comes to encoding, of course, there's lots and lots of fun ways that we can bring that practice together. Alphabet cookie cutters are always great if you're in the classroom with Play-Doh, you know, cut those letters out, make those physical words. If you don't have letter cutters, just get them to mold those letters around, get that handwriting practice. And of course, my absolute favorite, the shaving foam tray. I don't know if any of you have ever tried this, but just get a little plastic tray or a piece of, you know, something that can be used, small tablet size, cover it in shaving foam and allow the children to trace those letters out. It adds in that tactile element, and of course it's easy to correct and wipe away and start again. So as a teacher, we can use these in the classroom to practice our encoding in a fun, tactile, multi-sensory, hands-on type experience. So as a teacher, just like we did at the very beginning of this session, you might have a little spelling test. So you read out the words, the children trace it. Sand works really well as well, and lots of other things that can encourage the children to play with play with the letters, play with spelling those words, and enjoy that experience in the classroom. Now, Sandra says, I use rice. I've never tried rice, but it sounds good. Ooh, sandpaper. That's exciting. Something nice and tactile. Sandpaper, the idea there from Avery. That's really interesting. I will look into that one. Okay. Now, when it comes to encoding and decoding, a good way of thinking about it is they are just a reflection of each other. So when we're practicing one, those activities only need a little bit of a flip to be able to practice the opposite way round. So you as a teacher, you could write those words and get the children to segment them, to sound them out, or you can say the words and use those same activities and techniques. For example, the sheep activity, if we wanted to turn this into a decoding activity, then what we do is we take the picture of the sheep, write the word sheep underneath, and ask the children to separate those boxes into those graphemes. So anything that you do to practice decoding or encoding, a little bit of a flip, and you can use it to practice the opposite side of that. Reading and writing are just mirror reflections of each other. Okay, now games for mastering reading and writing. I love a game called Sound Swap. So it's nice and straightforward. All you need is a number of flashcards. So I've made digital flashcards here. In a classroom, you can ask the children to work with physical paper flashcards, and at home you can give them, you can email them a link and ask them to print out and cut up different flashcards for them. Snappy Sounds comes with a lovely Word document of all of the grapheme tiles in very, very small. So, you know, they're nice manipulatives for the children to use. And with Sound Swap, we just start with a basic word. So I've gone with the word cat. Cat, cat. And what I would do is I would say to the children, okay, I want you to change one of the graphemes to make a new word. So cat might become hat. The k comes out, the h goes in and we've got a new word, hat. And we ask the children to sound it out and then blend it together. The next child might come along and we say, okay, you can change one letter, make a new word. So hat might become hot, hot. And so on and so forth. So we can change the level of complexity with this in the classroom quite easily by encouraging the children to experiment. And depending on the number of different graphemes that you've taught and where you are in the process of synthetic phonics, you will allow the children to work with what they know. So you might start at the very beginning in week 1, week 2 of your synthetic phonics program, working with very simple CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, 3-letter words like these that are nice and simple. But of course, as they develop their learning, you can build on new words. You can play with as many grapheme tiles as you want to. You can control that, so you can make that nice and simple. One thing that you will find is that quite often the children will want to throw away all of the tiles and just start from the new. It's very, very important if you're working with this activity to ensure that they are doing it by the rules. They're only changing one sound. So get them to pay that attention to those specific sounds as they are learning. And then it reduces the chance of them using guessing strategies. They are clearly working it out, showing your workings, as we like to say in mathematics. Okay, now, of course, a key part of mastering reading and writing is mastering those sight words. So in the classroom, make sure that you've got a space for displaying these sight words. Most synthetic phonics programs will come with a poster. This is the level 1 Snappy Sounds poster, so the reception year poster for that. I would really, really encourage you to get creative, to get students to make their own high frequency word posters as and when you learn them. And of course, it's also important to keep referring back. As we said in the first part of the session, while the tricky word, the sight word, might be a sight word for us in week 1, by the time we finish the first year of a phonics program, these words, a lot of them will then be decodable. So do use them as a reference point for the learners as you go through. Yeah. And whenever we meet a new sight word, it is important to remember that while the whole word may not be decodable, some of it is. So if there is part of the word that can be decoded, encourage them to do that as well. Now, we talked a little bit at the beginning in the first part of our session about what makes a good decodable reader. Ooh, hang on. What have I done? There we go. Yes, we talked a little bit about what makes a good decodable reader. But of course, there are important things to remember. So I'm just going to bring that up for you, just to review for yourselves. So as we said, we want things that make sense, and we want things that have meaning, not just books that are decodable, but books that we can learn from, books that prompt discussion as well. And in terms of getting the most from your decodable readers in the classroom, a few things to consider are using them in the same way that you would use any other reader in your classroom. So if you are using any form of circle reading or independent reading or guided reading programs, then using those same activities and techniques to encourage that learning to happen and to encourage that comprehension and that engagement to happen within the classroom. Now, when it comes to the snappy sounds readers, here is an example called Thunderstorms. It's level 1, and you'll notice this one is one of the non-fiction titles. So with the snappy sounds decodable readers, some of them are fiction, some of them are non-fiction. They're all age appropriate and they're all relevant topics for curricula. This one's all about thunderstorms and culturally relevant indeed. Yes, we do enjoy making sure that, you know, these are things that the children will have concepts of. Nothing that's so far out of their understanding that it won't be connectable. So as we can see here, the decodable readers start with all that key information. And of course, you know, step by step, we're giving the children as much ammunition as they can have to get them through and able to read independently. So at the beginning, of course, we review those sight words that we need to see. We also have an opportunity at the beginning to make sure that they are having a vocabulary check. So you'll notice that some of the words on the right hand side are underlined, and these underlined words, they are recommended for you as a teacher to check the meaning with the children before they start reading, just as we might when we encounter them. Now, within your reading lessons, within your decodable readers, you know, there are lots of things that we can do to make sure that we're getting the most out of them. If you're teaching online, get students to take turns reading the different pages. Read the pages together in chorus and make sure that when we are focusing on sounds that we are introducing, and as you can tell, one of the big sounds in this word is the for thunder. Making sure that we are working together to sound out and blend words as we encounter them. Of course, as a teacher, we want to be regularly checking student comprehension, so asking questions to check their understanding as they go through as well. When it comes to getting to the end of your decodable readers, Snappy Sounds has done some of the work for us here. So you'll notice there are comprehension and discussion questions available at the end to, again, check comprehension and make sure that the children have understood what's happening. As I mentioned previously, there's a lot of criticism that with decodable readers and with phonics, you know, it's all about accuracy and it's not about meaning. So with Snappy Sounds, I think there's actually quite a nice balance between that comprehension as well as that ability to mechanically read what is happening. Now, I did mention online support, and of course, when we are in the situation that we are in, and we're very uncertain as to what the academic year is going to look like and what it will bring us, whether we will be 100% online teaching, whether we're going to be doing a mixture of in-class and online, or whether we're going to be lucky enough to be with our children the whole time, we're not quite sure yet. So it's always useful to know about the online support that is available to you. And the online support for Snappy Sounds comes in two key places. First of all of the decodable readers are available as ebooks, and very shortly we'll also have audiobook addition to that as well. So at the moment it's PDF e-readers, which are all available through the MacMillan e-reader app, nice and easy to use. And Rainer has just pointed out, yes, they are audiobooks that I recorded. So if you wanted to listen to me reading you stories, then you've got that option too. And the other area that our online support is found is on the MacMillan Education Everywhere. And I am going to run a risk now. I'm going to see if you can stick with me. Can you now see my web page? Type a quick yes if you can. Yes, brilliant. Okay, so you'll notice in here that within the MacMillan Education Everywhere platform, you've got access to your bookshelf, and within there, you will also find all the assessment resources. Oh dear, I've unlocked. I've been logged out because I didn't touch it for a very long time, and now I need to get back in. Please excuse me. Can I remember what my password was? Yes, I can. This is going to be embarrassing if it tells me that's not my password. Oh, okay. It's just being difficult now. Right. Yes, as I mentioned, you have got within here your all of your digital support as well, which includes wonderful worksheets that you can download and email to your students or print out and use in your classroom. Go on, be nice for me. It'll go, it will go. It also, and you can see, if you can still see me on the camera as well, you can see some examples of these here. So that's one of the worksheets that I've printed out for Find the Sound game for this lesson, or find the sound as in ant. So words circling, circle the things that begin with the sound that you're hearing, and little games that you can print out as well for different practice. Matching, can you match the clue to the word? So again, focus on meaning as well as ability to decode, which is wonderful. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but that does not want to log in right now. So I will go back to the slides and I will show you as we can see here. So what you'll also find within the assessment resources is model videos of teachers performing the assessment so that you can follow that step by step. You've got printouts and PDFs that you can email for lesson plans, different activities, the sound swap activity that we did a bit earlier, and there's also guidance on curriculum alignment as well. So there's lots and lots of support that you can find in there. Now, just a few things to note. If you are interested in using Snappy Sounds as your synthetic phonics program, key points to remember: it's a 2-year program. Most synthetic phonics programs run over 2 years, and typically for the UK curriculum, that'll be foundation and year 1. I would guess it's probably much the same for Barbados, but I'm not 100% sure. And you will find that in certain countries, they might start a little earlier or a little later with phonics. But in the UK, it's placed in foundation and year 1. It is a systematic synthetic phonics program. So regardless of what systematic synthetic phonics program you use, whether it's Snappy Sounds or any of the others that exist and that are out there, we can always ensure that you are getting the full coverage, all 44 sounds, the most common of all of those graphemes that we use, in an order that is built on logic, that's built on the frequency of the word usage and the complexity that it takes to understand them. So as we said, covers the 44 sound of English, over 120 graphemes, and a clear teaching approach with full teacher support. But the thing that makes Snappy Sounds really, really unique is that the decodable readers are designed to be used from the end of week 1, which means within the first week of Snappy Sounds, we can send the kids home with a copy of Sam and they will be able to read it on their own, which for many parents will be a huge appeal for that. Okay, so we have got about just under 15 minutes for any questions that you may have. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box. I will attempt to answer as many as you can. But thank you very much for your participation. Do feel free to type any questions that you might have in the chat box, and I will help out and answer as many as I can. If you are interested in seeing a free 30-day sample of the Snappy Sounds digital program, give an email to caribbean@macmillaneducation.com with the details of your school. And if you would like to know any further information, I'm going to leave all of that information up here, but the email address for samples is up there as well. Okay, so if you do have any questions, pop them in the question box. Let's have a look. Anybody? Any questions? Have you all fallen asleep? I hope not. Ooh, no, not asleep. Good, good. All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, and I'm sure that there will be some of you that will probably not be able to think of anything right now, and then have 1,001 different questions afterwards that you're like, why didn't I think about that at the time? Then yes, do feel free to send any queries or questions that you have to Caribbean at MacMillan Education, and they will be able to help. Are there large printable charts available? In terms of the classroom materials, the things that you get with Snappy Sounds involve having posters in the classroom. The children can each get one of these individual placemats, and then there are a number of self-study resources. In terms of large printable charts, I think the biggest thing that we've got is probably A3 size, big poster size, but those posters don't have necessarily each and every sound. A3 posters, yes, there we go. That's the word we were after. Any other questions? Thank you for asking me a question, McGregor Wickham. That was very kind of you. I feel grateful that someone had a question to ask. Thank you for the kind words that are coming through as well. I'm glad that it's been informative. Okay, well, doesn't seem to be any questions, so I will hand you back over to Raina, and she will talk to you a little bit about next steps and what happens, and run you through some of the information that you are likely to want to get. Okay, so thank you very much. Raina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. It was so informative that I don't think there are any questions. Based on some of the feedback, I think you did a fantastic job. And as Janelle mentioned right at the beginning, some of our colleagues have been watching some of your past webinars, so you're very thorough. And I think that reflects in the fact that we don't have many questions. So firstly, thank you so much for your hard work over the last 2 hours. Thank you so much to the Ministry of Barbados for allowing us to host our webinar as well. As Charlotte just mentioned as well, if you would like access to 30-day samples, then do contact us on the email address here. And also, if you'd like further information on our home learning content, please do view this on our MacMillan page as well. As always, do follow us on social media, and we do look forward to seeing you join our upcoming webinars in the coming weeks. So for now, just to say thank you so much once again. Also, the PowerPoint, the webinar recording, and the CPD certificates will be available within 1 week via email as well. So just to say thank you, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you join a session soon. Bye.